All right, Ray. So check this out. This is a video that we did. You can see this lot that I'm walking and see all of these Ram trucks. And then you're going to see another shot right here where there's a whole nother row of these Ram trucks. And I'll pause it right there and bring us back up. But what I want to talk about in this video is that is not their main lot. That's actually their used storage lot. And all of those are brand new Ram trucks. So they don't have enough room on a lot of these dealerships now to really hold the amount of trucks that are sitting on these lots. And throughout this video, I actually want to pull up some invoice pricing. We're going to talk about what dealers actually pay for these trucks, see the spreads, see if they have room where they can actually move on some of these things if they want to move them off of their dealership lot. We've had some rumors of some big price cuts coming from Ram, Jeep, Dodge. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I just really want to get your take real quick as someone who has done some inventory management on the new car side. If you're a Ram dealer right now, you're a Ram manager, what are you thinking about these trucks when you have to store them all on your used car storage lot and you have no room for your used cars because you have so many Ram trucks coming in?
I'm thinking about how we seem to be stacking them deep and we're about to sell them cheap. It's just that simple. You know that there is an oversupply of these pickup trucks. Stellantis knows that there's an oversupply of these pickup trucks. The public is aware of the fact that there is an oversupply of these pickup trucks. So it is time to move them along. It's time it's time to say goodbye. It is like opening up the SPCA and asking people to come in and adopt these lovely Ram pickup trucks and do whatever it takes in order to make that happen. And I am sure, at least from what I've heard, that Stellantis is stepping up and they're putting a few more dollars on the hoods of these vehicles to help move them along. So, but yeah, first of all, if I was the new car manager or new truck manager of that dealership, I would have been stacking them cheap and selling them cheap long before today.
Yeah, so let's pull up some of the price points here, and we can look at MSRPs. We can look at invoice pricing. Now we'll talk about invoice pricing in just a little bit and how sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. But this is what dealers are paying for these trucks. Now there are other monies that come into effect when you're talking about what they actually have in the trucks. There's a lot of assistance that comes from, but we've got a list here. At least we can see what they're cutting the check to Stellantis for, and then we can talk about all the after monies in just a little bit. But what I wanted to pull up about these Ram 1500s now, this is a list of 2025s, and a lot of these trucks that I've shown you on this video, a lot of the ones that you see at these dealerships that I show stacking up, they're 2024s. Mm-hmm. And these are new 2025 numbers that have been issued, and these numbers were issued at a time when Ram knew there were some problems. So keep that in mind when we're looking at this too. But even with that, saying that, there's a lot of these numbers, like something like this in particular, where the Laramie truck, you show invoice pricing of a little under $60,000, and then their MSRP is right at $64,000. One thing that I want to point out by a truck number like that is that there seems like there's a lot of spread between invoice and MSRP, a lot more than what I traditionally see. We pulled up numbers for Ford with invoice pricing, and the spread was very, very thin. Like in a lot of these trucks, it was like $700-800. But you see, it seems like the spread for the Ram side of things from dealer invoice to their actual MSRPs is much greater. Is this one of the big problems that we're seeing? And is that giving dealers more room to move, or is this just a problem from Ram?
Well, let's face it, Ram, when they started going more up market, so they were able to increase the MSRPs and the invoice price could remain relatively low in comparison to it. So their margin, you were looking at a $64,000 truck and it costs like $59,500. So there's what, $4,500 approximately. So that's what, like 9%. Well, there's 9% just from invoice. That doesn't include the holdback that there would be on a Ram pickup truck. And I'm going to guess it's probably about 3% of the MSRP. So 3 times, if the MSRP is like 64, so that's what, another $1,900 just in holdback. Then you have floor plan assistance to help them pay for having that vehicle sit on the lot way too long. And you have marketing assistance. So just between floor plan, marketing assistance, holdback, there's probably another $2,600. So now you're up to $7,000 in margin, not including any sales incentives that Ram might give the dealer for hitting certain sales objectives, or just extra money to help move a vehicle along above and beyond the customer rebates. Because many Ram trucks today are like a minimum of 15% off of MSRP. Well, that's coming directly from Stellantis. That's got nothing to do with the $7,000 margin that the dealer has in that vehicle.
Yeah, and going back to these numbers, I would assume too, with even with that amount of leeway between the invoice and the actual MSRP, these dealers they can't sell things at MSRP right now. So this baked in spread, I would assume, probably evaporates as soon as a customer walks onto the dealership anyway, not even including like holdback, anything like that, because they need that level of spread to be able to get these consumers in these cars.
You know what most dealers would do is they would say, okay, it's 15% off. Well, that 15% is coming strictly from Ram. It's not the dealer. So most dealers are going to just try and discount it to 15% that Ram is advertising, and the dealer is going to try to hold on to that other $7,000 off for themselves. Okay, doesn't mean that you can't negotiate a much better price off of MSRP plus the 15% that the Ram is already giving you. You could end up somewhere around 25% off. If you can get 15% off from the manufacturer and 10% off from the dealer, you'd be at 25% off. And guess what? That would probably move that $64,000 pickup truck. Because what's 25% of that? 10% would be 65, 13,000.
About 15 grand. Close to it.
It's more than that. It's over 16 grand.
At 20% would be $12,000, and then you're talking about another 5%.
$64,000 MSR. So you're around 15, 16 grand. Yeah. That I would think should move a unit like that. If you could look at a $64,000 truck and know you can pick it up for somewhere around 49,
be around 50, somewhere around there. Even so, though, I mean, the average, like you go to Ford, that's about the cheapest thing that they have right now is like $55,000. GMC's right around the same range. In Ram, you can find trucks cheaper at Ram right now than you can of any of the big three, but it's not moving the needle. Like, we still have to have prices come down. Affordability is the biggest problem. And by the way, we'll pull up. I want to pull up something else. This is a Jeep Grand Cherokee. So this is the family vehicle, right? Yeah. These are more what spreads typically look like. Now, the Ram trucks, they have more money built into invoice versus MSRP. And by the way, if you want to see the screen just like this and see invoice pricing, we'll actually put a link down in the description below. It's free. Yeah, you don't have to pay anything. You can see invoice pricing. Link in the top of the description below. Just click on that and pull up any vehicle that you want to be able to see invoice pricing. But I want to go back.
Would that be free at caredge.com?
It is. It's CarEdge / CarSense, I believe, is the URL that they gave us, but it'll be down there and it's free for you to use. All right, new channel right here. So if you haven't already, please like, subscribe. It's free for you and it really helps us out. But what I wanted to point out is with these spreads that are so close together, this is what we normally see in the car market from dealer invoice pricing versus the MSRPs. So Ray, seeing that and seeing that the dealer's not really making any money off these Grand Cherokees, let's talk a little bit about where they actually can make money and why dealerships are still so profitable, even though they're really not making, traditionally, they're not making any money off actually selling the brand new product.
Because there could be a huge dealer cash incentive where Jeep would say to the dealer, okay, we're going to pay you for the month of February, let's say, we're going to pay you an extra $1,500 for every Jeep Grand Cherokee you sell, or every Jeep Cherokee that you sell. And so even though there might only be $1,200 or $1,500 profit built into the vehicle from invoiced MSRP, if there's another $1,500 that Jeep is going to give them, well, suddenly now it's $3,000. Okay, and then you still have your holdback, and you still have your floor plan assistance, and you still have your marketing assistance. So there's typically extra money that comes from the manufacturer to help move these things along. And that's above and beyond whatever the customer rebates might be that the manufacturer has in place. So it's not like it's secret money, but it's not published money. Okay, it's dealer communicated money that the dealer would know about, but the customer would not.
Yeah, the other thing that's really built in there where dealers can make a ton of money is trade-ins. So whenever you take your car to trade it in at a dealership, I mean, they feel like they got you right there, so they can give you almost nothing for your trade-in. And they're a one-stop shop, but they're going to get paid for that one-stop shopping whenever you drop off your old car and you pick up that brand new one. And what they do with those cars is they can either take them to auction, and they'll pay way under wholesale value for your trade in, and they know they can send it straight to auction. Whatever it brings, it's a lot of cases pure profit for them. But if your car is good enough, then they actually like to keep it now. And this hasn't been traditionally what car dealers have wanted to do. They don't want to keep a lot of these trade-ins to retail them, but now they're doing it more often. And the reason being is because they can make a lot more money. They can make money on the front end. They can make money on the back end with these higher end trade-ins, and they're so rare now. The higher quality trade-ins, we're not seeing them at auction for used car dealers because all these new car dealers, they've gotten smart and figured out that okay, they can make so much money on them, so they're just keeping them themselves.
It's cheaper for them to trade it, to buy it that way, than it is for them to buy it at the auction. The one thing I will suggest to you, that a well-run dealership, the used car department at the end of every month should be within a couple $100 of break even when it comes to wholesale. Okay, so if they've traded cars that they intend to take to the auction and sell, that should not be construed as a profit center for a well-run dealership. So what I'm trying to say is, if they traded 20 cars and they took them to the auction, when everything is all said and done, they should have either made or lost no more than a total of $400 or $500 on either side of the equation. Okay, there are dealers out there, used car managers out there, that love to be able to say to their dealer principal, well, we made $30,000 in wholesale money on those vehicles. Well, if that's the case, how many deals didn't you make on those new cars because you were trying to steal every trade-in? Okay, so you need to be pretty damn close to the money when you're appraising a vehicle that's about to be traded into the dealership. You shouldn't be looking at it as, oh, this is a way for me to pick up extra wholesale profit that I don't have to pay a commission on. Because if you're looking at it like that, you are passing on way too many new car deals to start with.
So I want to pull up another example, just showing you some invoice pricing on one of the most distressed vehicles out there, and that's one of these Gladiators. So just to play it one more time, if you want to see some of this invoice pricing, check out the link down below in the description. Click on it. It's free. Fill out the little thing, and then you can see the invoice pricing, what a dealer pays for whatever vehicle you want to see. But I want to come back to this Jeep Gladiator because this right here interests me a lot. So
Yes.
the MSRPs on the sport models, in 2025, they announced that they were going to drop them, but they were going to drop them down to about $40,000.
Yeah.
And then we got more info from Jeep saying, you know what? Okay, well, we're having a hard time selling the Gladiators, so they're dropping them again. So this one is now actually listed at $38,000 for the MSRP, but the 2024s, the MSRP on those is $43,000. So I want to talk about this scenario with you where you have a bunch of 2024 Gladiators sitting out there,
Yes.
MSRP $43,000, and then you get a shipment of 2025 Gladiators, all of them with an MSRP of 38 grand. What's got to happen at that dealership?
Well, first of all, you're refusing to even accept the allocation of the 2025s that have an MSRP that's $4,000 or $5,000 below the 2024s. You're not going to start accepting those vehicles until you've unloaded all the 2024s. Okay, and obviously they know on the 2024s that they're going to have to offer a huge price reduction in order to sell them. Now, I will say this. You would have a hard time, even if there weren't any 2024s left on a dealership's lot, you would have a hard time finding any Jeep Gladiator that has an MSRP of 38.1. Okay? I'm just saying, you're never going to see that vehicle. And when you go to a Jeep store, I mean, what are the Gladiators you normally see? Mid 40s, mid 50s, low 60s.
Yeah, I got something pulled up right here. So this is a 2025. This is a dealership that's near me.
Yeah.
Price on it's $38,885, and that's a 2025.
Well, look at that. And do you think you could really buy it for that if you went in, or they're going to be
I would assume
fees
there's going to be
added?
some markups. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the sad reality of life, is that we know sitting here that most of the advertised prices online, what's a nice way of saying they're bogus? They're
Yeah.
phony. They're not going to let you buy it at that price. They include every incentive known to man, that maybe there's one person in the United States that could qualify for every one of them. So they're made up numbers, unfortunately, and it's really sad that in 2025, this is how dealers still do business today.
So I want to let's look at this one too. This one's crazy. So this is a 2024
Okay.
Gladiator Rubicon, and the MSRP on this is $60,000, and the advertised sale they have is all the way down to almost $43,000.
Wow.
That's crazy that they
17,000
have
off.
to lower something that much to actually move it. And like Ray says, the advertised price is not the real price, but still $17,000 off. They're taking probably at least 15 grand off what they were trying to sell that thing for last year.
Well, they have to. I mean, they haven't been selling. You can only get what the market will pay, and legitimately, if the market is that people will pay $43,000 for that nearly $60,000 Gladiator that's a year old, well, guess what? That's what you're going to have to sell it for. Those dealers that are holding out for more, they could be holding out for a long, long time. I don't know of any mass market vehicles that become worth more tomorrow than they are today. Okay. Every mass market vehicle that I'm aware of goes down in value on a daily basis. They ain't going up in value. So you have to realize what you're selling here. This is not an Enzo Ferrari. This is a Jeep Gladiator that nobody wants, for goodness sake. So you take whatever the market will bear and you move on with life. It's not that difficult, at least in my mind.
So I had another fun one for us to look at here, but I just want to show you the images of. I tried to find a new 2025 Dodge Hornet in my area,
Yeah.
and there's none because I guess these dealerships they're just not going to take them.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of 2024s. Let's see here, but we have 2025 Hornet pricing. Just again, if you want to see invoice pricing, check the link in the description below. But yeah, I would imagine these invoice prices being this thin. I would almost even think they're flipped, where the invoice price would be higher than the MSRP.
There's just so much back end money coming from the manufacturer to be able to move those units. And my guess is if you wanted to find a 2025, well, they're probably sitting on the rental car company lots. They're the ones that have bought them. The dealers certainly don't want them at this point because they're still burdened with too many 2024s.
So what do you do about? I mean, the answer is always just lower the freaking price, right? But yeah, I mean, I go to these Dodge dealerships and there's still like 10 Hornets sitting there.
The only thing I can tell you is I had a vice president that I worked for when I was with the Penske organization, and John used to always say, the only reason the customer hasn't said yes yet is you haven't lowered the price enough. Don't stop until you can get them to say yes, because that's the market. The customers establish the market, not the dealer. Now, the only time dealerships establish the market is when there's a shortage of cars. During COVID, when there was a shortage of cars and people had this fear of missing out, so they were willing to pay all the market adjustments. But typically, the customers establish the market. They're the ones that will tell the dealer, you might be asking X, but I'm only willing to pay Y. And when all the customers keep saying the same amount, sooner or later, the dealership has to honor what the customer is willing to pay, because otherwise it's just going to sit there forever. And John's theory was, if they haven't said yes yet, you just haven't lowered the price enough yet. You keep lowering the price till they say yes. Now, that doesn't mean, you start by taking $10,000 off and then you take another $10,000 off. I mean, you have to go in increments, but there's the only thing that prevents somebody from buying something is when the perception in their mind is that what you're asking for it exceeds its value. And until you can lower what you're asking for it to be less than what the value is or equal to what the customer perceives as the value, that's when you can get them to say yes.
So I've got a question for you. I don't know if you experienced this at all with any of the brands that you worked with, but so we have the potential of Jeep, Dodge Ram cutting some prices across the board.
Yes.
What does that look like? Do they put out commercials, say, okay, MSRPs are cut 20%? Do they send new stickers to their dealership groups? Do they just add a 20% or whatever it is incentive across the board and then have some national commercials that push that? What is the dialogue, and how does a consumer know about this, and how does it get conveyed to the dealerships where they actually are doing this and not just adding on whatever fees on top of the 20% off, and then you pay 25% more in add-ons or whatever? What does it look like if something like this were to happen?
I have worked at dealerships where the manufacturer has decided to lower MSRPs. And what they typically do is they re-invoice the vehicle at a lower invoice cost and send out replacement Monroney labels. You take off the old window sticker and you put on the new one. Now, if I was Dodge or Ram or Jeep and I've been struggling, and we've heard rumors that they're going to reduce the MSRP on some models upwards of 30 to 35% in the second quarter of this year. Well, at that point, if you're going to do something like that, I would think it would be in your best interest to get the most bang for your buck when you're doing that, to advertise the hell out of it nationally that, we realize there are ways we're reducing the prices of these models by X. Go to your dealer. You'll be able to take advantage of these huge savings now. And they'll all have brand new Monroney labels, and the dealers will finally be able to move them. So that's for me.
If they actually want to, because what we've learned at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what the manufacturer wants to do. If they want to cut $20,000 off the vehicle, and then the dealer wants to add a $20,000 add-on, they're able to do it.
Well, the dealer can do whatever they want, because the MSRP stands for manufacturer's suggested retail price. It's not the manufacturer's price. It's a suggestion. Dealers are free to sell for less than or more than, depending upon what the customer's willing to do. Now, I would hope that if there's dealers out there that have been complaining for the last 18 months, 2 years, about the lack of support and incentives from Stellantis and the high prices of the vehicles, and they've been sitting on all these units, that they wouldn't play that game at that point in time. They would just be glad to finally unload these vehicles, because they're only going to cost more. I mean, the longer these things sit, the more things that go wrong with them. Batteries will go bad. Well, guess what the manufacturer won't pay for if the battery goes bad while it's sitting on the dealer's lot? They ain't paying to replace the battery. Tires get flat spots. Guess what the manufacturer is not paying for if the tires have to be replaced? They ain't paying for the tires. So these are just added expenses for the dealership. Lot rot, door dings, whatever. The dealership absorbs all those extra costs. So at a certain point, somebody's got to be smart enough at each one of these dealerships to say, let's take whatever the hell we can based off what the manufacturer is now doing to help us move the units, and move on with it, because they're not going to become more valuable the longer they sit.
And I absolutely hear you, but that lot that I just showed you a little while ago on that video that has all these trucks on their on the used storage lot, and not enough room on their main lot.
Yeah,
every one of them got about $4,000 worth of add-ons on them.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that dealership is hoping that there's an awful lot of dumb North Carolinians that would just come in and pay that kind of money. That they're hoping, because like we always say, you can't get what you don't ask for. So the dealer can't get that $4,000 if he doesn't ask for it. But if I were a salesperson in one of those stores and I had somebody that was even remotely interested in any of these things, I mean, as a salesperson, you have to be saying to them, that sticker, don't worry about that sticker. That extra $4,000, don't you worry about that extra $4,000. You want this truck? I'm going to figure out how you can buy this truck. Don't worry about all that other nonsense.
Yeah, and I would assume it's probably the fastest first pencil that you've ever seen in your life, where like, okay, well, here's the price. Oh, I saw that look. I'm sorry. Let's cross that out. Let's get it down to MSRP for you.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like that? Okay, let me talk to my manager. And you hadn't even said a word yet.
Yeah. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Tell every living person you know that they need to subscribe to Car Sense with Brandon and Ray.